Hello?
Hey, Ashley, can you see me?
Yep.
Do you have a camera?
Yes, I
There you go.
do.
Uh, um, okay, so I'm gonna send you something right now.
Okay.
In your email, did you get Lucid Charts? Anything from me from Lucid Charts?
Um, what I got was just a very brief overview when Keith was introducing you to James.
I don't know why that does that to me every time. This is what I'm referring to. So, can you see my screen?
Nope, I still see you.
Do you see that?
Nope.
Or is it still me?
Yep, still you. There we go, I see it now.
Okay.
Wait, a lot of them. Like it's duplicate. Okay, there we go. Now it's good.
Good. Okay. So what I'm doing is this. It's just your standard process mapping. So this is no gee whiz stuff, but if you start, let me start that way. Is this. So do you see the screen?
Yep.
Okay, so for every account that's within ESG, it's going to have a life cycle. That life cycle will be composed of phases. They'll have different entities involved, like ESG, VMware, the end user.
Mm-hmm.
And then each of those will have different roles within those entities. And my part is to capture what are they doing, so that way we can look at it from the standpoint of how can we improve their process, either through why the hell are you doing it? It should go over to this guy and let him be dedicated to doing that. Or it could be that it's an entirely manual process and we can absolutely automate that.
Mm-hmm.
Or it could be SFDC as a core tool can take care of that for you. Again, that kind of falls under the automation bucket that I kind of just talked about. But that's what we did at ServiceSource. That's what Keith is looking to do. Now, whether or not they described it that way is probably just a product of how they speak,
Mm-hmm.
less than what the intent is. So that's why I say like the environment there is very much like ServiceSource. Not that they do the same thing, but what Keith was brought in to do, what Keith is trying to do now, is he's trying to take, let's say each account has 3 or 4 guys,
Mm-hmm.
and they need 12 to pull off all the different things that they do.
Mm-hmm.
He needs 2 things. 1, streamline what they're doing, and 2, make it so that way instead of having 12, I can still do it with 3. That's what he wants to do.
Okay.
All right, so if you think about whatever the hell he says in that context, you'll understand what you're supposed to go do. And you'll understand that you could go back to him and say, hey, dude, I understand what you just asked me for, but Salesforce doesn't do any of that. Or it does or doesn't. It's your opinion to render. But that's ultimately what he's trying to do. Okay, so how are you and I and VMware going to benefit each other so that way you can do whatever it is you need to, or whatever the tasks are that Amy's given you and Keith is giving you? Let me help try to answer that question. So that question is answered by understanding that right now what we're doing on the VMware account is we're going through and populating that framework.
Okay.
So it's the same framework, right? You have an account, you have entities, and you have roles.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. You have life cycle. You have a particular life cycle. Each one of those have activities within that life cycle, and each one of those activities has phases within that activity. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, so what I'm doing is I've gone and I've sat with the account lead for the sales guy, and we've figured out what these things are. Right now, this is current state. This isn't what it's supposed to be, it's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to document what it is so we can go consciously figure out where we want to spend money and effort into making it into 2B, right?
Yep.
So if you just start down this road, you can see that this swim lane sales manager, he has to do certain things to get a particular product. You can see how these are all represented, right? And I think it's pretty logical and straightforward. Now, what you and I need to do is, with your Salesforce admin hat on, you need to say, hey, dude, can you help me understand what this is? Because we could probably do that in Salesforce if we simply set up this configuration, right? And I know that's going to take some time, which is why I want to start showing you this stuff. It's not done yet, but you can start to look through and digest what it is. In doing that, I think you're going to get two things. You're going to get, one is VMware actual examples of what we need for a Salesforce admin to come in and do. And number two is when you look at all the Salesforce instances that Amy and Keith has you looking at, you can start wrapping your head around, okay, well, the biggest account you have, VMware, does it like this. So we might want to set up a process that's going to account for them as well as any other accounts, but we don't want to have 15 instances of it. We want to consolidate it in some meaningful way. Does that make sense?
Yep, it does.
Okay, so what I have today, and I'm not done, I'm still doing this, is I have a bunch of these charts.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see this My Shared documents. This is all
Yep.
VMware at the moment, but it's, if you wanted to get your head around just a 100,000-foot view of what it is they do on a sales team as a process, as a core process, you can utilize this guy. You can say, okay, they roughly have these kind of people. This, first of all, this is for PSO leads.
Mm-hmm.
They roughly have these kind of people, and they go execute these high-level tasks. And so I don't know if anybody's giving you the lowdown on what the day in, day out processes are that they go execute, but this is an attempt to do that.
Okay.
So if you got familiar with what the hell this is, then you could start to ask an intelligent question like, what is this thing called a master? What is it? How do you guys produce it? What could SFDC do this for you and maintain it? I think it absolutely can.
Mm-hmm.
There's no need to have two different lists that we have to manage. An object or an application that is called master unassigned list, and then you can maintain a log of what those are, so that way he doesn't have to maintain an Excel file that does that.
Yeah.
And then when we reconcile it, if they're both in the SFDC database, right, it's all running against the MySQL database. We just have to customize it from the standpoint of creating an object.
Yeah.
Well, then fine. When I go to reconcile, I can do that through SFDC. I don't have to do that through an automated process. Let me just show you this one piece right here. This thing, this G. It's ridiculous what they do. And I could go into, if he wants to keep it in Excel, I could keep it in Excel. I could just run a macro or write a JavaScript and do it all for him and just ingest the file. But literally, he goes through every one of these steps. He goes through every one of these steps.
Oh my gosh.
Logging into a VPN connection, which we really can't automate.
Mm-hmm.
Here, it's what he does to just format all of the Excel document just to get it to where he can query against the VMware database. He pulls that import back, then he modifies that file in a very manual way, all these steps. Then he reconciles it in a very manual way, all these steps, until he finally gets to a point where he can say, okay, here's the new unassigned leads. Let me send those off to my ISR so they can go actually start making phone calls. Right? So all these steps, the sales manager time is tied up doing. If every one of these pieces, aside from the VPN connection, we can put into Salesforce in some logical way, then you're a hero and I'm a hero. And the VMware account team has got time to go spend more time on sales versus formatting this damn document. Does that make sense?
Yep. So does VMware not have an admin either?
They don't have an admin. That's what you're going to do.
Okay.
So you're going to
that can be easily automated.
Yeah, right. So this is why I wanted to, this is why we're doing the documentation, is so you can understand what are all the steps they do. And then you could say, okay, well, I need to understand this one because I'm at a decision point in SFDC, and you can go this way or you can go this way. You got to tell me, right? But you can't really do that unless you have the process documented, because you don't know what it is they do. You have no bearing as to whether or not you're helping them or you're creating a new process. See what I'm saying? Okay, so what I can do is this. I can send you this process. Well, I can do a couple things. So let's just write this down so I don't forget. Okay. So the first thing that we need to do is give you access to the Lucid chart documentation. And as I build these, you'll have the same input that we are all working at, okay?
Okay.
And that's just a web-enabled thing. And I think I thought I gave that to you. Let me just make sure I'm doing this. See, on this documents, you can define a team.
Yep.
I thought I gave you. No, I didn't. Okay. Oh, that makes sense. Give me your
email address.
Read it off. Yeah.
AACOBB40@gmail.com.
Okay. Where's my group name? I have no idea. I might have to go create a group. I thought I gave these to you individually by document. So, okay. So I just took the note. I'll make sure that I do this for you, and I'll make sure that I either create a group or I distribute each individual document to. So that's the first thing. The second thing is give you access to the video files for their processes. Okay, and this is what I'm talking about. So the way I'm capturing his process is I make him do a recording, and then I make him do a recording, and then I just keep going over the recording as I need to. Are you still seeing my screen?
Nope, I'm seeing you now.
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen again. So over here in YouTube. So again, you can access it. But on my YouTube channel, I have all the recordings. So month-end duties, activate PSOs, all these things are going to be what you're seeing in each one of these charts.
Okay.
So if you have that understanding and you're looking at one of these charts and you have a question around, well, what the hell is this? You could look at the video. Some of these videos are like 30 minutes long. You don't have to go through and look at it. I think it would help you, to be honest, because you'll see actual screenshots of what they do in Salesforce.
Yes.
And I think you'll be able to recognize, oh, well, if you're doing that, why the hell don't you just do this and you'll be fine? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'll send you those, and here's where you're going to have to take the action to say, okay, I'm going to read these, or I'm either going to review these charts or review those videos when you have time, and then you come back to me with questions so I can help clarify. Because I don't know that I'm going to have time to continually, you know, hey, did you look at that? No, you know, and that'd just be a waste of time. So as you look through them, just ping me with questions. You'll have access to the same stuff I do.
Okay.
Okay. And then, so then the final thing would be, what I need personally, is your input on SFDC implementable options. So this is what I mean. So like here, if you go through this process and you check out the video and you say, hey, they're doing this in a very stupid way, what I need you to do is say, hey, dude, so maybe what we need to do is label these in a particular manner. But once you have access to this, you'll be able to edit those as well. And what you might be able to do is just, this is really intuitive. I mean, you just drag and drop. So you might grab one of these things and say, hey, look, man, this entire piece right here, we can create a Salesforce object. We can configure a SQL query, whatever the hell the option might be. But you highlight the impacts or the pieces that we could potentially modify in a to-be state. And that's what I need feedback on. Oh, shit. So that way we can capture it.
Okay.
So like I said, this is going to be a to-be, or this is a current state. I'm going to do the same thing in an as is. So I want to be able to show this is what you were doing. And if you take away these 4 steps and you just replace it with this 1 step in SFDC, these go away, right? So I expect that this big old chart, it's consolidated down to, you know, half of that, because we're able to eliminate a series of, you know, steps. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So in light of any better definition from Keith or Amy or otherwise, I guarantee that if they were sitting here at the table, they'd all be nodding their head. This is exactly what they want, all of them. I don't know if they're articulating it to you that way, but that's what they want. So if you can, because I think what they're telling me, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what they're telling you is, hey, go in an SFDC, familiarize yourself with what's in it, and then tell me how you can improve it. Well, is that what they're telling you?
Yeah, Amy literally just gave me access to her instance, and she's like, hey, it's pretty basic. If there's anything that you can do to make it more efficient, that would be great. Just go ahead and make the changes.
Yeah. Well, see, and I love Amy to death, but again, how do you do that, right? If I don't know what you're doing, then how do I know what to recommend for you, right? I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me. And maybe it's just because I've had to deal with this kind of thing in a software development capacity all my life, and I refuse to jump into that. Like when people give me direction that way, I'm just like, nope, I'm not doing that, because I'm not going to be successful. I don't know what you do. So any recommendation I give you is not going to make any sense. It's got to align to something you have to do on a day in, day out basis. Yeah. So you tell me what that is, and then I'll give you suggestions on how to do it. That's exactly what I'm doing here. Every day, these different people execute these processes. Now that I have that on paper, I can now tell you how I can help you deal with that. But if I don't have it on paper, if I don't have the process, how the hell would I know if I'm helping you out? I might be making more trouble than it's worth. I have no idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
literally, what I have is just a big spreadsheet that has questions for her in order to help implement anything better. But this makes a lot more sense. If we can get something going in VMware, then we can kind of roll it down to all the other instances that they have.
That's the plan. That's the key ticket right there, is let's do it on one of them and then roll it out to, or at least they're not going to have the patience to do it incrementally, right? They're going to want to do all of them at the same time, right? And that's why I'm saying let's agree on a process, right? The process should be, you tell me what my processes are that I'm helping you automate. We'll outline what those things are. Then I'll go through the process of collectively and succinctly identifying options. Once I know what the process is, I'll create a to-be once I know what the as-is is.
Yeah.
But I can't just jump in and start fixing shit in the middle. I don't know if I'm affecting things upstream or downstream, and that's not a good thing. And you're not helping yourself, you're just perpetuating the problem. Because then you're going to have to hire somebody else to go unscrew what you screwed up.
Yeah.
With best intentions of making it better, but if you didn't outline what it was, how the hell do you know if you're making it better?
Yep.
So anyway, so I think this is why Keith, whether or not he knows that this is what we're doing, I sent him an email. I want to show you this because this is important. I mean, not just to me, it's important to all of us. I really think that if we can get one of these instances like VMware, where it's the biggest one, where we're all collectively working towards an end state together, then we're going to be able to attack each of the other accounts as they prioritize. They shouldn't be in the business of telling me what we should be doing. They should be in the business of telling me what accounts we need to go affect.
Yeah.
And so if you give me a list of prioritized accounts, I'll take the approach that'll get you to that end state. But I want to make sure that they're not telling us how, they're telling us what.
Yes.
And if you let them tell you how, we're going to be screwed. They just are not close enough to the details. They're not going to be able to do it. Here's what I promised Keith. Oh goodness, where's Keith? Here. So he asked me to send me an email, deliver room, blah, 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 right? I said, hey, I'm going to give you this current as is. Then I'm going to give you a to-be. Then I'm going to recommend why improvement areas for that to-be to happen. And these will include roles and responsibilities, process flows, detailed decision points, implementation options, pros, cons, a list of user requirements. So again, here's the other thing that I was trying to get to was I want us to develop a user story list for implementation. So what I mean is, if somebody sees an SFD instance and they say, okay, can you make that do this, that, and the other thing? The smart play would be to write that down somewhere. On X day, as a VP of sales, I need Salesforce to deliver this functionality, right? And write that down as a user story. So that way we can do a couple things. One, we can see it for trackability purposes. Two, we can test against it, right? Maybe as a VP it works, but as a sales associate it does not, right? So we need to make sure that we write those down with that intended audience in mind. And then third, we can test against it, right? We can say, okay, now that you did whatever you did, does it do it every time, right? I mean, we can run test scenarios against it. Does it do it in peak time? Does it do it in, I don't know, whatever the test scenario might be. So I have a recommendation on how to do that. I'll show you the format for it. It's real simple. It's just an Excel spreadsheet, but I want to track those. And I think, and when we did this for ServiceSource, we did it in SFDC. So as an admin, what they did is they just created an object that was called user stories, and it just cataloged all the different fields that we wanted to maintain when creating a user story. And none of the business requirement guys ever went in there and put one in. It was the development guys that wanted them in there, and again, it was for all the reasons I just listed. So I don't think we're going to get much traction if we say, hey, Amy, go put a user story together. We're going to have to do it. but I want that done because, like I said, at the end of the day, we need to show them that we did, in fact, try to affect your process by implementing these stories. And if you need to roll any of those back, you can, but the only way you can is if they're cataloged.
Mm-hmm.
So that's this piece. And then the last piece is, really doesn't apply to you, but it's just lessons learned and blah, 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 templates. And I'm going to do that all in one document that looks like this. It's a BRD. Have you ever used a BRD before?
The BRD?
Business requirements document is what it's called.
Okay, yes, I have.
Yeah, so my template's going to look like this. And I've already started it. So I'm explaining all this to you, Ashley, so that way, again, two reasons. One, as you help VMware, you'll understand this is the approach, and these are things that are real. You can ask me for them and say, hey, where the hell is this? So I can go do whatever. The other reason is because, like I said, they're going to keep pulling you into different accounts. And each time you get introduced to a new account, you might want to say, hey, look, we have a standing process over on the VMware account. I'd like to be able to continue to utilize that. Or maybe not. Maybe you think it sucks, and maybe you don't want to do that. That's fine. But now at least you have an option, right? Yeah. It's up to you. And like I said, I would recommend upfront and early to account for the idea that they're not gonna give very clear direction on what they want at the end of the day, which is why I started doing this. This is all written down. I told you I was gonna write it down. Here, I wrote it down. If it's something that you can review it at any time, if there's something in it you don't like or you want to change, good, then course correct. But in spite of having shitty and vague direction, this is what I'm doing. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Okay, so this is the BRD, and I have places for signatures. And again, this is another lesson learned. If they sign off on it, that means, hey, you agree to it, right? That kind of thing. Just a pretty standard stuff. Who does what in terms of ERACI? Some documentation around what it is we're trying to do and what the intent is. And again, this is just placeholder boilerplate at the moment. It's not entirely done, but I'm working on it.
Yeah.
But again, it's a template for you to see that if you came in as a VMware admin to this team and I handed you this, you could ramp up immediately and be like, oh, okay, I get it. I understand what we're doing. I understand what the processes are. It's one-stop shop as to how to maintain what we're putting in place. If we do it ad hoc the way it's starting to go, with direction coming, from 15 different directions, it's unclear, we're going to be all over the place and we're not going to really do anything. So I'd really promote the idea of utilizing this, the Lucid charts, user story template, and then potentially those Google Hangout videos, so that way we can pull all those pieces together if at any point in time we're asked to help understand what it is we implement.
Okay. I do have two questions for you. They're basically the same question. Do you happen to know what edition VMware is on and what edition ESG are on? Because those are things that can affect what options I can give you.
For SFDC, you're saying?
Yes.
I don't know at the moment. That's another great thing to start going here too, by the way. We should probably get an action item list together.
Okay.
So that way I can keep in track what it is we're trying to track down. No, not new folder. And I'll upload this to Google too.
Okay.
So that we can do it if you want. If you want to keep your questions in here, and then actually. See if I can't get it by tomorrow. It's tomorrow the 1st? Damn it.
Tomorrow is the 1st.
All right, and then I'll just I'll make sure that we keep track.
All right.
All right, so that's all I had. What other questions do you have?
I think that is those are the two biggest questions I had. I was just kind of wondering where we were, because I didn't know about whether you were just providing documentation by the 1st or the 1st of July, or if things had to be done by then, as well as I wanted to know what instances they are on so that I could start coming up with ideas. Because, you know, if they're on a professional edition, that severely limits what they can and cannot do.
Versus one other kind of edition?
Versus like an enterprise. Enterprise, you have much higher limits and you have access to more information, as well as are they on the Service Cloud or the Sales Cloud or a combination of the both?
Yep.
That all has huge effects on what options you can give them.
So, so in this thing, whatever questions you have in a generic format, just start jotting them down. I mean,
Okay.
and don't assume that even the most minute question is gonna. I mean, if it has to be wickedly detailed, then let's make it wickedly detailed. That's fine.
Yeah.
But what I'm anticipating is that it's going to take some time to turn around responses because you're not going to find too many people who know. And so if we don't get those kind of questions in front of at least James or maybe the account controllers, or what do they call it? Coordinators. That's it. Account coordinators. I don't know to what degree they're going to know either. So here, let me send you this, and then if you can update it, you know, as best with whatever's rolling around in your head at the moment.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be specific to VMware too. I mean, if you have questions that, you know, that need to go back to Keith and Amy or Dale or Dave, whatever his name was, or even what was the lady's name? Kristen.
Kristen. Yep. I actually have a meeting with Kristen tomorrow because she's having issues with the sync between Marketo and Salesforce.
Okay. Yeah. So if you could capture any of those, that'd be awesome. Because, like I said, I see it. I know this is going to morph very quickly, and at the end of the day, people are we're gonna be what we think is 90% done, and then they're gonna expose another 30–80% of I also want, and they're gonna do it under the same kind of normalcy of, well, why didn't you do it to begin with? Why didn't you think through, you know, shit that I didn't think of until this morning? That happens. So, you know, if there's any bit of question, even if it's just scope definition, which is a very valid thing to be asking, you know, hey, when do I know that I'm done? That's a very valid question to be asking these guys. You know, we just got to get those kind of things put in front of them sooner than later.
Okay.
So yeah, if you could take a peek at this and then put together whatever your thoughts are and just shoot, no timeline, just shoot it back to me sooner rather than later, so that way we can get answers, obviously.
Well, I'll definitely start on it tonight.
Okay. And then I'll start shooting you or providing access to these different things today. And I'm going to send you to just some sample stories, and maybe you can help me understand if there's, do we have just a generic ESG instance of Salesforce? Is it all account specific?
From what I understood, they said they had a very generic ESG one, but I haven't seen it yet, and I only heard it mentioned once.
Do you know who owns it?
I do not.
Who's it? No. Okay. All right. Okay. I was going to say we could probably put them there, right? I mean, I want to leave whatever data that's going to be specific to them in their prod environment if it's something we could do.
Yeah.
But yeah, on this one, on the front end, take a peek at this video specifically. And maybe we could tag up, I don't know, can you tag up tomorrow?
Sure. I'm meeting with Gant in the morning, and then Kristen in the afternoon. But I'm planning on getting out probably at 3:30 if you want to connect after I leave work. Would that work?
What was the time then, did you say?
Anytime after probably 3:30 or 4 tomorrow would work best.
Okay. This one. Take a peek at this one.
Okay.
And this is the one that's already, yeah, see, so you can kind of see it.
For the first couple weeks in
He's just walking through the Salesforce instances.
Mm-hmm.
Are you still seeing my screen?
And Adam, I would add Adam.
You still see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah, so you can kind of see what, it's like you're sitting over the guy's shoulder and he's just walking you through different aspects of their day in, day out job. And again, I think if you see it, you can say, oh, well, I see what you're doing, but I wouldn't have done it that way. Or, a better way to do it would be, and whatever the hell that might be.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll make sure I send these to you right now. Make sure I do that right now.
Okay.
And that way you'll have visibility into what these are right away. Okay?
Sounds good.
Okay. You be good. Thanks for tagging up.
All right, you too.
All right, later on.
Bye.
Okay.